Okay, the story I'm going to read is by my favorite author, Patricia Polacco, and the story is Chicken Sunday. Stuart and Winston were my neighbors. They were my brothers by a solemn ceremony that we had performed in the backyard one summer. They weren't the same religion as I was. They were Baptist. Their grandma Eula May Walker was my grandma now. My babushka had died 2 summers before. Sometimes my mother let me go to church on Sunday with them. How we loved to hear Miss Eula sing. She had a voice like slow thunder and sweet rain. We'd walk to church and back. She'd take my hand as we crossed College Avenue. Even though we'd been churching it up like decent folks ought to, she'd say, "I don't want you to step in front of one of those too fast cars. You'd be as flat as a hen's tongue." And then she squeezed my hand. When we passed Mr. Kadensky's hat shop, Miss Eula would always stop and look in the window at the wonderful hats. Then she'd sigh and we'd walk on. We call those Sundays Chicken Sundays because Miss Eula almost always had fried chicken for dinner. Then she'd have collard greens with bacon, a big pot of Hoppin' John, corn on the cob with fried spoon bread. One Sunday at the table, we watched her paper fan flutter back and forth, pulling moist chicken fried smells across with it. She took a deep breath. Her skin glowed as she smiled. Then she told us something we already knew. "That Easter bonnet in Mr. Kadensky's window is the most beautiful I have ever seen," she said thoughtfully. The 3 of us exchanged looks. We wanted to get her that hat more than anything in the world. Stuart reached into the hole in the trunk of our wish tree in the backyard. He pulled out a rusty Band-Aid tin. The 3 of us held our breath as we counted the money inside that we had been saving for weeks. "If we're going to get that hat for Miss Eula in time for Easter, we're going to need a lot more than this," I announced. "Maybe we should ask Mr. Kadensky if we could sweep up his shop or something to earn the rest of the money," Stuart said. "I don't know," Winnie said fearfully. "He's such a strange old man. He never smiles at anyone. He always looks so mean." We all agreed that it was worth a try anyway. The next day, we took a shortcut down the alley in the back of the hat shop. Bigger boys were there. They were yelling. Eggs flew past us and pelted Mr. Kadensky's back door. Just as the boys ran away, the door flew open. Mr. Kadensky glared straight at us. "You there," he yelled. Why do you do things like this?" "It wasn't us," Stuart tried to say, but Mr. Kadensky wouldn't listen to us. "All I want to do is live my life in peace. I'm calling your grandmother," he shouted as he wagged his finger in Stuart's face. In my kitchen the next day, we thought about how we could win over Mr. Kadensky and convince him that we did not throw those eggs. "He doesn't even like us," Winston chirped. "Eggs," I said quietly. "Eggs," Stuart asked. "Eggs," I screamed. I went to the kitchen drawer and took out a lump of beeswax, a candle, a small funnel, and a wooden handle with some packets of yellow, red, and black dye. Mom helped me show the boys how to decorate the eggs the way my bubby had taught us, the way they do in the old country. We made designs on the eggshells of hot wax, then dyed them and finally melted wax patterns off. We put the eggs in the basket, and even though we were afraid, we marched into Mr. Kadensky's hat shop and put them on the counter. He raised his eyebrows and glowered at us. Then his eyes dropped to the basket. Spot, he said softly. "That means thank you in Russian." "Pasanki eggs," he said as he looked closely. "I haven't seen these since I left my homeland." We didn't throw those eggs at your door, Miss Kadensky, we told him. He looked at us for a minute. Well then, you have great courage to be here. Chutzpah. You have chutzpah. Then his eyes glistened and his mouth curled in a warm smile. Come have some tea with me. We spent the whole afternoon talking together, having poppy seed cake and strong tea. He told us about his life and we told him about ours. When we finally got the courage to ask him about doing odd jobs to earn some extra money, he apologized and told us that there was no work. We didn't tell him that we wanted the money, what we wanted the money for. It didn't seem the right thing to do. Our hearts just sank. I tell you this, he said thoughtfully. These eggs are as beautiful as my hats. Stuart, Winnie, and I looked at each other. It's almost Easter, he went on to say. I'm sure that people would love these eggs. Set up a table and sell them right here in my shop. For the next few days, we worked very hard and we made almost a dozen Pisanki eggs. When people came in, they picked them up and said things like, beautiful, splendid, intricate, glorious. We sold them all in a single day. That afternoon, when all the eggs were gone, and we counted the money, we had more than enough for the hat. Just as we were about to tell Mr. Kadinsky that we wanted to buy the hat, he came from the back of the room holding the most beautiful hat box gift wrap. Keep your money, children, he said. I have seen Miss Eula admire this. It's for her, isn't it? Tell her that I know you are very good children. Such good children. When Easter Sunday arrived, we thought our hearts would burst when we watched Miss Eula open the hat box. She held us close as big tears rolled down her cheeks. Our hearts sang along with the choir that Sunday. She looked so beautiful in that hat. When it was time for her solo, we knew that she was singing it just for us. Her voice was like slow thunder and sweet rain. Later that day, as Miss Eula sat at the head of the table, she said, oh, baby dears, I can die happy now. And after I'm dead on Chicken Sundays, I want you to boil up some chicken, bones, gravy, and all, and pour it over my grave. So late at night when I'm hungry, I can reach right out and have me some. Then she rolled her head back and laughed from a deep, holy place inside. Winston, Stewart, and I are grown up now. Our old neighborhood has changed some, and yet it's still familiar too. The freeway rumbles over the spot where Mr. Kadinsky's hat shop once stood. I often think of him and his glorious hats. We lost Miss Eula some time back, but every year we take some chicken soup up to Mountain View Cemetery and do just as she asked. Sometimes when we're especially quiet inside, we can hear singing, a voice that sounds like slow thunder and sweet rain.